Everyone is always talking about different tactics to help increase your show rate, whether it's an email here, an SMS here, make sure you send this in this bit, make sure you send that in that bit. The whole thing doesn't matter if you don't understand the first principles around show rates. What actually creates a show in the first place? What's the actual fundamental reasons why people even show up to an appointment? With this video, I go into a lot of different topics. So please don't watch like 5 minutes of it and then think, oh, I know it all now, like I'm just gonna skip. There are so many theories and so much meat to this that you really need to watch the entire thing. So I jump back and forward between different things constantly and it will give you a much bigger picture. The other thing is in the document that I'm gonna link down below, that isn't everything I went through. That's just like some basic things. In this actual video, I break down into a lot more things and some things that aren't even in the sheet. So don't just download the sheet and think, oh, it's okay, I don't need to watch the video, I'm just gonna read the sheet, because there's lots of things that'll still be missed. And just to give you a bit of confidence in why I know what I'm talking about, I've been in the agency space for over 8 years now. I used to have my own white label call center, phoning up my clients needs for them, working with some big players like Gym Launch. We had 350 plus of their gyms on our books at one point, and I've learned a lot about not just booking appointments, but how do you actually get them appointments to show up? Because without a show up, the appointment is useless. I've created an entire document explaining this. I'll put the link down below and I'm going to screen share and go through that document with you guys right now. So here it is, the show rate Bible. Like I said, I'm going to explain in first principles exactly why shows even happen and how we can understand why a show happens to make sure that we can put all the necessary tactics and things in there to make sure we can get the best show up rates for us and for our clients. The really quick thing, legal disclaimer. So in this, to be fair, in this document, I don't think there's anything crazy that I'm saying, but just in case, if I'm telling you to call a lead 1,000 times, if that's against the state's laws that you're working in, or just, I don't know, different country you're working in, whatever like that, then obviously make sure you follow the rules, follow the laws, speak to a lawyer if you're not sure on anything. This is just purely for entertainment, just for a bit of fun, right? So let's jump straight in. So introduction. Welcome to the Show Rate Bible. Like I said, in this module, I'm going to show you exactly why people don't show up to their appointments. This is relevant for your own appointments and your clients' appointments. Obviously, if you're helping them get more appointments, this is going to be applicable to all of it. The first thing I want you to understand with all of this stuff is anything I tell you, please don't just copy me. Every niche is different. Every person's different, right? The people you're targeting are going to be different to the people I'm targeting. I'm targeting agency owners, right? So some of the stuff I'm talking about works for agency owners. Agency owners are more, I'd say, they're a more mature audience in the sense of like technology, right? So some things you could do to a 60-year-old woman, right, when it comes to sending texts and having closed bots send texts and AI voice and whatever else, which won't work for my niche because you guys are smarter than that, right? You understand technology. So there's loads of things like that when it comes to texting, right? So for example, in some situations, if you're working with lawyers, sending emojis might not be suitable, right? But in the gym niche, sending emojis looks really positive and welcoming, and it's actually quite a nice thing to do. It adds a bit more color to your message. So just everything you do, I want you to think about it from your prospect's point of view. I want you to have a think about it and really try to put yourselves in their shoes and think, okay, if I was this person, how would I feel about this, right? That's like one of the biggest things I want you to take away from this straight away, right? Just think about it from your prospect's point of view, and everything you do, you should think of it that way. Don't just copy what someone else is doing. It might work for their niche, it might not work for yours, okay? So let's jump in. First thing, motivation. Motivation is the fundamental metric I'm gonna be discussing throughout this whole module, okay? Pain can also be described, it kind of works with motivation, but in my opinion, it's the pain that creates the motivation, and motivation is just an easier thing to understand, in my opinion. So I'm going to use motivation, but pain, motivation, it can be used the same way. They're essentially the opposites of the same thing, right? So for someone to take action, they must be motivated to actually take action. And there's a threshold for someone to take action. If you're sitting down, right, and you're thirsty, you'll be at a point where you're like, no, I'm working, I'm good, blah, blah, blah. You might do some more work, right? All of a sudden, an hour goes by and your body tells you, hey, you're actually quite dehydrated now and you feel a bit more pain, right? That pain motivates you to stand up, go to the kitchen and get a glass of water, right? Anything you do is based around motivation, whether it's pain causing motivation or just motivation on its own, whatever it is, it's always motivation that brings you there, okay? It's your job to make sure the motivation of a person is at the highest point throughout this whole process, right? And the biggest problem is that motivation is constantly dropping over time, right? So a lot of the time when you book in an appointment with someone, right, their motivation is super high, right? So imagine this. You've got a lead, let's say you're in the chiro niche, right? They see an ad and it's about back pain. And they're like, oh, my back's really hurting, it's really bad at the moment. You see this thing and maybe the ad is a testimonial of someone going, oh my God, my back pain's really bad, but then I did this thing and it worked really well. And the guy's like, you know what? I'm finally going to fix my back pain. I'm sick of it. I'm done with it. I'm not doing this. I've had it for years now. I want to fix this, right? So they're now motivated. The ad has motivated them to actually submit their information into a lead form or some sort of funnel, right? So their motivation is high at the moment. Your setter then calls them. And by the way, this is also just a side note, important. This is the reason why speed to lead is so important, because the motivation drops over time. So if you wait an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, by that point the person's busy, oh, they don't care, they know the ads, essentially like the spell, you could call it, the spell from the ad has worn off. So they're like, oh, I don't really care anymore, like, oh, I can live with my back pain, it's not as bad as I thought it was, blah, 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 right? So that's why speed is so important, okay? So they fill in, your appointment setter should be calling them, right? You should be calling them up, and then from there, what's gonna happen is they're going to book an appointment, right? The problem is that most people book an appointment maybe 3 days out, 4 days out, right? The reason why I say in all of my content that you need, and not just me, or Mosey, loads of guys say this, you want to be booking the appointment as soon as you can. If you can do the appointment there and then, do the appointment there and then. If they're like, oh, I'm actually free in an hour, can I come in an hour? Can I come in now? Like, yeah, you fucking can. Let's get you in, because they're so motivated at that point, right? The chance of someone showing up, imagine you book someone in for an hour's time. What's the chance of them showing up? Extremely high, extremely high. They're always going to be showing up at that point, right? But you wait 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, by that point, life's come up, things have happened, their motivation is just exponentially decreased, right? This is how it works. And so you want to make sure you're booking people in as soon as you can when you get them on the phone, okay? That's like one of the most important things. You need to make sure you're booking them in as soon as you can, because then that way you're able to the closer you can get your appointment to this higher motivation, the more likely they are to actually show up to the appointment, okay? That's just like a bit of a basic one there. I've got tons more things. I'll explain, I'll elaborate more on that in a little bit, but that's just like a basic I want you to understand, that motivation decreases over time, okay? A free consultation is not free. So with this, everyone always offers a free consultation. Oh, let's just jump on a free call, a free strategy session, whatever it is, right? People are always offering these random kind of like things, right? It's not really tangible. It's just like someone's time. And they think it's free. They're like, well, it's this free strategy session. Why is someone not going to call with me? I'm giving them out. I'm going to consult them for free, right? The thing is, a free audit or a free consultation is not free, right? They're still investing. They're actually investing in the most important thing they have, which is their time, okay? It may be free in terms of money, but what about the prospect's time and energy, right? If your lead doesn't feel like this is worth their time, they're not going to show up, right? That's their time payment. They're not going to show up to it. If they feel it's like they're going to be put in an uncomfortable situation, like being pitched or on something they don't want, and they have to like say, no, I don't want it, and put in that uncomfortable situation, that's an energy payment. They're having to essentially put up energy to feel uncomfortable, and then it makes them have to make a decision, and it's like this horrible, like tense thing. That can be exhausting, right? Imagine sitting on a sales call and someone keeps asking you to buy something over and over, and you have to keep making up excuses and you give them objections. It's exhausting, right? So there's an energy payment and a time payment. With any kind of consultation you're doing, there's always an energy payment and a time payment. And most of the time, you guys are not convincing your lead that it's worth their time / their energy. I get pitched all the time on my Instagram DMs. Hey, let's jump on a free call and we do this. Hey, what if I can do this? Well, I don't believe them. Their guarantees are they don't mean anything to me. I don't believe their guarantees are real, right? I believe there's always some clause or there's some get out, or there's gonna be something that's not gonna actually work. And so for me, it's like, it's not worth my energy and time to jump on a call with these people because I don't believe them, right? If you offered someone, hey, look, I'm gonna give you $1 million if you jump on a call with me, right? Are they gonna show up to the call? Probably not. Because they don't believe you. They don't believe that you're actually going to be able to give them $1 million when they turn up to the call. I just don't believe it's going to happen. If you can truly convince someone that if you turn up to this consultation call, I'm going to give you $1 million, if they actually believe you, then perfect. They will 1,000,000% show up, right? Even Hormozy himself would show up, right? Anyone would show up for $1 million for a minute call, whatever it is. Or most people, I don't know, maybe not everyone, but most people would show up to that call because they believe you and it's worth their energy and their time. Okay, so a free consultation is not free. I want to understand that because too many people kind of get stuck on thinking that my offer is really good when it's actually trash. Okay, trust and comfortability. Okay, there are two parts to whether someone actually wants to show up to your appointment, right? First part is trust, which I was just talking about. Do they trust you can actually solve their problem? Do they trust you're going to give them $1 million, right? Do they trust that whatever you're offering them is going to be worth their time and energy, okay? Do they trust that you're actually going to give them an honest consultation and try and help, right? A lot of time people know that it's just a pitch. They're just like, oh, it's just a pitch. You're just going to pitch me. It's a sales call, right? So they don't believe you're actually going to try and consult them. Again, this kind of ties into the thing I was just saying about their energy and time. Like, people are happy to invest their energy and time into something if they think they're going to get an ROI on that, right? If they don't think they're getting an ROI on it, they're not going to jump on a call with you. They don't want to speak to you, okay? And then when we talk about in-person appointments, trust still applies, obviously, right? They have to trust you that you're going to help them fix their back pain, fix their teeth, help them lose weight, whatever it is. But now there's another level, which is called comfortability. Okay, comfortability still applies to online appointments, right? Are you going to put them in a difficult situation? Are you going to make them try and make a decision on the call? But it's not as important as in person, right? The reason why is because when the person is going to a physical place they've never been before, that's like an actual risk to themselves now, right? They actually don't know, like, I'll use some random guy on the internet that's going to try and kill me. Like, they want to make sure that actually in a safe environment. If they don't feel comfortable, if they've seen some random thing online and they've got some weird appointment set with an accent, saying weird stuff to them, not really giving them clear information, when they ask them what the address is, they're like, we're at 457 District Avenue, Colorado. And they're like, wait, is that up the street? Like, sorry, wait, that kind of stuff, right? Sounds like they're not there, and therefore I'm not gonna trust you. So they might book the appointment because they've been polite, but they don't trust your appointment setter, or they don't trust your business, that you're actually like a real business. And that. Remember, we're all online, right? Well, most of us, I don't know whoever's watching this, but most of us are online. And so when you're in that situation, it's really important to make sure you can actually build the trust as well. That's why if you had one of your clients, for example, phone up the lead, right? And they were like, yeah, no, we're like, the McDonald's on 5th Avenue. Yeah, we're right opposite that. Have a real conversation. They've got like a local accent. That trust factor is way bigger. It's way bigger, right? And that's why when it comes to the appointment setters, you can't just get some random appointment setters on your calls. You need to make sure you've actually got some high quality appointment setters that sound good, right? That know the business. That way they can actually build the trust, and that's why you get good shows even with appointment setters. But if you just have some bad appointment setters, your show rate's always gonna be trash, right? So does the person feel comfortable with who they're meeting, where they're meeting, right? Building rapport with the person they're meeting, right? You want to send selfies, things like that. I actually recently had an experience a couple of years back now. I joined an MMA gym and I phoned the guy up and I was like, hey, I found your thing online. I'm interested in learning some martial arts, blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, great. Yeah, come along to our place. We'll come meet you, blah, blah, blah. We've got like these trial sessions, whatever it is. I was like, okay, great. That sounds awesome. So we're in something industrial park. I don't know if that's in the US, but basically it's like a place where like you get like mechanics and you get like builders and like, it's like this big kind of park with all these like industrial areas, right? So I tell them about this industrial area and I know where the place is, so I Google Maps it, but you have to go through a gate. So you got the industrial park, which you go into. You got like another area within the industrial park. You go into this gate. There's no signs anywhere, nothing showing where this place is. I drove around for about 5-10 minutes first, just trying to find where it was. I then find this place and there's a very small sign on the door. It's like the door and you got like a very small sign, no lights, no nothing, and it's just like a metal door. There's no windows on it. I can't see into the building. It's literally just like a warehouse with just a metal door on it, right? So I'm standing there and like the door looks closed. I'm like, am I here at the right time? Is this the right place? I don't know. I try to open the door opens up, it's like this little lobby, and I can see people through in that room. I can see on the other side of the room, there's like a glass bit, and I can see people training, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, this must be the right place, awesome. So, but it's the middle of the class, it's the middle of the session, right? So I open the door, I walk in, and I'm just standing there. I don't want to interrupt the session, because that could be rude. I've never done martial arts before, so I don't know what the rules are around this. And then, luckily enough, the coach sees me, and he's like, oh, and he like stops the session, he comes out, he's like, hey, like, what's up, how can I help you? I'm like, yeah, I think I'm here for martial arts class, I don't know if this is the right place. He's like, oh yeah, no, my name's blah blah. He welcomed me in, he explained things, I joined the class, it was great, right? But I'm quite a confident guy. But in that moment, I felt very vulnerable. I had no idea what was going on. I felt really out of my comfort zone, to be honest with you. And I was just standing there and I was like, ah. Then people wonder why people don't show up to their appointments, right? Like, there'll be, God knows how many people, how many leads they've tried to get into their gym, but they've missed out because they either couldn't find the place, or they go to the place and there's like this little sign and there's just like a metal door and they're just like, oh, this looks sketchy to me, this looks a bit dodgy, I'm gonna leave, right? That must happen all the time. That happens to your clients' businesses all the time, and they wonder why people don't show up to the bloody appointments, right? You need to make sure the person feels really comfortable, okay? Do they feel comfortable with where they're meeting, who they're meeting, right? Even building rapport, right? So it's really important the appointment setters on the calls can build rapport, right? Make sure they can actually build a connection. If you haven't got appointment setters, that's still okay, but you need to make sure that obviously you can't build rapport with them, right? Like they just turn up to the appointment. Obviously, having someone speak to that lead first, that really helps with the rapport and like the trust factor. If you're just sending people from like a closed bot messaging sequence or just like go high level messaging sequence and you're just trying to get them to show up, your show rate's always gonna be lower. Having someone call the leads is always gonna be way more powerful than just like getting them to show up. So building rapport is really important. Like in your reminders, are you sending selfies, right? Like for example, if that guy, the owner of the gym, sent me a picture of like the gates and was like, hey, make sure you walk through here, then go to the right, there'll be a metal door with a sign on it. Please just walk in, blah, 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 we'll greet you, etc., etc. I'll be like, oh, okay, I understand what I'm doing. I feel way more comfortable and way more trusting now, right? Everything just feels better. But if I just turn up instead, it's kind of like, it's a bit of a mess, right? The other thing you can do here to build a lot more trust and comfortability is have the client reach out using something like a blue messaging service like Link Blue or something else, right? And just be like, hey, I can see you've got an appointment with us at this time. Just wanted to kind of quickly welcome you. My name is Joe. I'm gonna be the coach during the session. I'll come meet you. Text me before you get here. Again, stuff like that. If you can do that through like the blue messaging rather than the green messaging, that can be really powerful as well. Do you have parking information? Do they know exactly how to get there? Like I was just saying, right? Need to reduce obstacles as much as possible. Make it as easy as possible for someone actually to be able to get into that place and actually show up to the appointment. You need to make sure their motivation's at a certain level, right? And these obstacles always lead back to this motivation and time period. Actually, what I want to do, I'm going to quickly do a whiteboard and I'm going to quickly show you exactly what I'm talking about. So if I've got motivation versus time here, so motivation's up here and over time it starts to drop off, okay? When someone shows up to the appointment, their motivation needs to be at a certain level, like I was saying, okay? The thing is, there's another factor here that's at play, which is the amount of obstacles they've got to overcome to be able to attend the appointment, okay? So when the motivation is higher than the obstacles that it takes, that's when the show will occur, okay? So if I've got, for example, down here, right? That's the obstacle. I'll put OB for obstacles, right? That could be, for example, someone's got to drive a half an hour out of the way, right? Let's say someone's got to drive an hour out of the way and someone else has got to drive 5 minutes, right? The person that's 5 minutes, right? Their obstacles will be down here, and the person that's got to drive an hour will be over here, because the actual obstacle of attending that appointment is going to take longer. It's just going to be harder for them to attend, okay? So with that, obviously, we want to try and reduce the obstacles as much as possible, right? But we need to keep the motivation as high as possible throughout this entire journey, right? So like I was saying before, a few of the ways we can do that is booking the appointment as soon as possible, right? So if we can book the appointment here, then obviously we're meeting that obstacle, right? The other thing we can do, right, is reduce the obstacles. So for example, building rapport, right? Increasing that trust factor, increasing the comfortability factor, making it so the person knows exactly where they're going, make sure there's parking information, all that stuff reduces the obstacles, right? And once we go along, providing the motivation, again, is higher than the obstacles, we're good to go, okay? So let's say the obstacle's here, right? We go along here, and let's say here is the, I don't know, 3-day mark, right? And here's 4 days, and here's 5 days. If you keep the obstacles exactly the same, right? So they've got to go up to a metal building, or a metal door, sorry. They've got to open it, they've got to do all this stuff, right? If you do that, right? If you keep the obstacles exactly the same, there's no parking information, there's no clear instructions on how to get there, right? All that kind of stuff, right? Anything more than 3 days, the person's not going to show up to because the obstacles are too high, right? But let's say I add a load of parking information, I do, all the stuff I said, right? And the obstacle level now goes down to here. Now all of a sudden, if you book someone out 4 days, they will now show up to the appointment because the obstacles were lower, right? So it's really important to understand how the motivation ties in with time and also how the obstacles interfere with this. Because then if you can, all the reminder sequences you send, right? That's all reducing the obstacles, making it easier for the person to attend. It's reminding them, it's like, oh, okay, I'll remember now I've got that appointment. You're making everything easier for them to be able to attend. With the motivation side of things, right? How can you keep this higher? Well, the way you can keep this higher is send in maybe some sort of lead magnet on like how to lose weight, for example, right? So they're building that connection with you more and they're like, oh, you know what? I see it's possible. Maybe you're sending them testimonial videos and they're like, oh, wow, this guy lost 100 pounds. I can lose 100 pounds, right? They feel more motivated about it, right? Whether maybe you want to do some sort of ad retargeting in that window, just to really encourage them, hey, look, like keep reminding them of their dream outcome and what they can do and their pain, right? The motivation ties into pain. So the more we can kind of increase their pain throughout this as well, their motivation is going to be higher to make a change, right? So there's loads of ways we can improve the motivation, but also we want to make sure we can reduce obstacles throughout. Okay, so going back to the document now, data is king. Okay, if you've had 10 appointments and 3 shows, that is not enough data. Do not start playing around with things. The amount of people that join my coaching calls, jump on consultation calls with me, and they're like, hey man, I've had 6 appointments, only 2 showed, something's fucked up, something's broken. I'm like, you've barely done anything. Like if I go to a casino, right, and I win 2 hands in a row at blackjack, does that mean I'm guaranteed to win every hand of blackjack? No, I might win 5 hands of blackjack in a row. I've done that plenty of times, right? That might happen. But if I only took like, I don't know, 6 times, okay, I've done 6 blackjack hands, I won 5 of them, that would be a terrible idea to keep playing like with that in mind, right? Because like that's not gonna stay forever. So whenever you get show rates, like sometimes people there are some weirdos that just book appointments and don't show. There are some weirdos that book appointments and they say, yeah, I want to attend, yeah, I'm going to attend, yeah, I'm going to attend, yeah, I'm going to attend. And then an hour before, yeah, I'm going to attend. And they just don't turn up, right? Like that happens. I'm sure you've had that before. That happens all the fucking time. So you need to make sure you get enough data. And a good amount I usually see is 30 appointments. If you've got 30 appointments, then you can really start assessing what your show rate is and start understanding what's going on, right? A big issue is a lot of people start reacting emotionally after the 5th no show in a row. It's extremely tempting to start tinkering with your system. Don't do this, right? Get enough data and then make changes. Don't try and make changes too early on, otherwise you start running into this emotional system. I feel like emotional system is a bit of an oxymoron. It doesn't really make sense, emotional system. But you start getting into this emotional framework, the way you're acting, right? It's horrible. Don't do that. You want to make sure you're always looking at the data and making sure that you're actually making changes based on the data and not just deciding random things. Otherwise, you're just going to be going around in circles and it's like a ship with no rudder. Like you're just going to be going all over the place, okay? The next thing is calendar availability. This is the biggest indicator of show rate, right? You or your clients, they should have at least 24 hours of availability every week. That means 24 slots in the calendar, right? That doesn't mean that your med spa client, who's a bit of a diva, who thinks she doesn't need to work any days apart from Tuesdays. I only do new appointments Tuesday afternoons. It's like, okay, well, your show rate's gonna be trash. Your show rate's gonna be fucked. Like, if you only do appointments between the hours of 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. on Tuesdays, everyone's at work, people might book in appointments, right? At the time, they might promise you, hey, I'm gonna book an appointment, I'm gonna turn up. I feel, again, going back to the motivation, right? Someone books an appointment, they're super motivated. They're like, oh my God, I'm gonna fix this problem. I'm gonna get this done, whatever the thing they're trying to solve, right, is. Then what happens is when the appointment rolls around, right, they actually realize that they're not free on 2 p.m. on Tuesdays. Maybe when they booked the appointment originally, they're like, you know what, I'm gonna ask my boss if I can have my lunch break at 2 p.m. instead of 1 p.m. or 12 p.m. And so that way then I'm gonna be able to attend the appointment, and I'm definitely gonna do that. I'm gonna ask them right away. And all of a sudden, 2 days later rolls around, they forgot to ask their boss, they're really hungry, they didn't have a lunch break, they're like, oh, fuck it, I'm not gonna attend that appointment anymore, because their motivation to fix their pain has changed, right? And now the motivation of hunger, the awkwardness of having to ask their boss to take a lunch break at a different hour, all that kind of stuff feeds in, right? Same with things like mums doing the school run, right? So mum might have to go pick up their kids from school, and they're like, but you know what, I'll get my husband to pick up that day, right? All of a sudden they forget to ask their husband's at work, they're like, oh, I can't attend the appointment anymore, blah, because they're just not motivated anymore. They're not as motivated as they were when they booked the appointment. When your appointment set's on the phone with them and they're like doing a really good job of objection handling, and they've just seen the ad, they're like, I'm gonna get into shape, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna do all this amazing stuff. And then all of a sudden the time actually rolls around and they can't do it. And that's why calendar availability is so important. We need to make sure that we give them as many options as possible to be able to book an appointment to reduce the obstacle, okay? Because if, for example, like if we see here, right, the barrier to entry for each slot is dependent on each person. So the barrier to entry is another name for the obstacle, right? The obstacle for the person to attend, right, is dependent on each individual person, right? For example, maybe on Mondays, the person is super busy, they always got loads of meetings and stuff, and so they just can never really attend meetings on Mondays, right? But on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, they're super clear, right? So you can see here, B is the barrier to entry, that's the obstacle, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? And so maybe on Mondays, it's really hard for them to attend appointments. So if you're only offering appointments on Monday, even though they might agree to it, even though they might be like, I'm gonna do it that day, again, remember the motivation drops over time, and the motivation's not gonna be high enough for them to be able to overcome that barrier, so they won't show up to the appointment, right? I hope this is making sense. So like I said, this is the biggest indicator of show rate. You or your client should have at least 24 hours of availability every week, split between mornings, evenings, and weekends, if you want the most success with the show rates, okay? The reason for this, like I've already explained, let's say your clients have 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. available for appointments with leads. You're forcing your leads to pick a time that probably isn't very convenient for them, although they may book the appointment. That's because in their heads, they genuinely think they will attend. Whether it's asking their boss to leave earlier or asking their parents to pick up the kids from school that day, they do think they'll attend. But when the time actually rolls around, the friction of attending that appointment is too high. They forgot to ask their boss, their parents are busy, whatever it is, and they no-show. Where if you gave them an option of a 6 p.m. appointment in the first place, they would have attended it as it was much more convenient for them. But by forcing them to work inside your client's schedule guarantees the no-show. Make sure your clients have as many slots open as possible so leads can pick the most convenient times for them. Okay, one of the biggest things I got from Gym Launch, right? Gym Launch drilled this into me. They were like, that we have to have as much of it. Obviously, I didn't control the gym's availability. They really, I kept hearing them say it all the time. The biggest indicator of show rate was the availability. So make sure your clients have as much availability as possible. A really cool hack here as well is actually tracking the show rate for each of the slots that all your clients have, right? So you've got 30 clients, you track all their slots in like a show rate heat map. I can make another video explaining that if people want that. It's a really cool little system actually. And you can start seeing what times of day get the best show rates, because you're tracking the appointment time, you're then tracking the show rate, if they showed or not, and you can track that in like a big sheet where it's got like a heat map, right? You can see all the slots and when people showed up, and you can take that back to your clients and be like, hey, you know you said you don't want to do any work on Friday afternoons? We actually found Friday afternoons. If you look at this data here, we've got our best show rate Friday afternoons. So I'd recommend doing Friday afternoons. If you show that to your clients, they can be way more open to actually opening up their calendars for that part. Too many agency owners just do what their clients say. Their client says, oh, I can't do this time, or I can do that time, or whatever it is. And they're like, okay, we'll fit around you. We'll still make it work. Like, you guys are the experts. You guys need to consult them and tell them when is the best time for shows, and make sure they have them slots available, right? Because again, everyone has different lives. Everyone has different times of day. It's really, really important to make sure you've got as much calendar availability as possible. The next one, which I've already covered briefly, is notice time on appointments. So the closer to now that we can book the appointment for, the higher the chance of the lead showing and even closing, right? It's a knock-on effect. When someone just booked the appointment, they're at their hottest. They've literally just clicked an ad, targets their pain, which is why they're booking an appointment. For every hour that goes past after their appointment has been booked, their curiosity, desire for their services massively reduces. In an ideal world, someone can have their appointment with you as soon as they book, right? A lot of time when I'm speaking to people that are doing cold calling, they call a lead, I'm like, hey, was the guy free? They're like, yeah, they were free. Like, spoke to them for like 2 minutes. I'm like, why did you just not start the sales call? Everyone complains about the show up rate on their cold calls. It's like, just do the call there and then. You get someone on the call, start discovery, right? If the guy tells you, hey, like, I've got to go, fine, cool, right? Then book the appointment. But if you can do the appointment there and then, why are people not doing the appointment there and then, right? It doesn't make sense to me. In an ideal world, someone can have their availability. As soon as someone clicks the button, they can book with you there and then. That's obviously the ideal world. I appreciate that everyone lives busy lives, so you can't always do that. But that is like one of the best things you can do. Reducing the time as much as possible. Again, keep going back to this motivation graph, right? If you can get them booking an appointment here, then their motivation is super high. It doesn't really matter what obstacle you've got because they will attend, okay? I would recommend having a 2 to 4 hour notice window, right? Like 4 hours is usually plenty for your sales team or for you or whoever it is. If someone wants to book in, make sure, like, give yourself maybe a buffer of like 2 hours, right? Like 2 hours is normally enough time to get back from the gym if you see the appointment come up. 2 hours is enough time to like kind of get yourself sorted. For me and my sales team, we do 4 hours. So it gives my team 4 hours notice every time it comes in. I appreciate for brick and mortar, that might not be possible if you're gyms, chiros, dentists, whatever. But still, the whole point of this is you want to make it as succinct as possible, as short as possible. It's very, very important. The next one's time to appointment. So similar to the point above, further out an appointment is booked, the higher the chance of the no-show. And I've already briefly touched on this. But this is because the lead calls down after the initial booking and they aren't as motivated as they initially was. I would recommend a maximum of 3 days. Right? I wouldn't recommend ever booking someone out more than 3 days, like 4 days, 5 days. Don't do that. The problem you start having is that you get this horrible cycle of you being busy. So you're like, well, my calendar's full, so I have to book out 5 days in advance now. I have to extend the days people can book in. The problem with that is that then people that are booking at 5 days, they are more likely to no-show than people booking in 2 days or 3 days, right? So then you end up having someone booking your calendar for 5 days time. And as you get closer to them 5 days, that now becomes maybe 2 days away, right? And you could have booked people in there, but you've got someone from 5 days ago that booked in and they're probably going to no-show. And so you end up just having this cascading snowball of no-shows because everyone you're booking in 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, they're taking up slots, which you could have booked in when you're closer to that time, but now they're probably going to no-show. And now that person that you would have booked in that slot, they're now being booked in 10 days later. They're probably going to no-show. And you just end up having this calendar full of no-shows. It's absolutely horrible. So personally for me, I'd only do 3 days. If my team are absolutely maxed out, right, I'd rather just hire more salespeople. I'd rather figure that out. Worst case, what you can do is like, hey, I'm so sorry. My calendar's actually super busy right now. Do you mind if I give you a call back in 3 days time and I'll book you in for the next day or something like that, right? Recall them, reconnect with them, right? And then book them in. Or you can book the appointment, right? But you make sure you have a confirmation call first. So the day before, 2 days before, you're like, hey, we booked an appointment for you 5 days ago for tomorrow. Is that still good with you? Did you want to change it? If they don't answer the phone, if you're texting and calling, there's no answer, you're probably better off just opening up a Ghost Calendar slot. If you don't know what a Ghost Calendar slot is, I'll put a link to a video somewhere around here and it explains the whole Ghost Calendar system. It's a really cool hack. You can have basically multiple slots and you can fit people in and it explains it in the video. But anyway, open up a Ghost Calendar slot or worst case, just delete the appointment, right? And have it open and have someone book into that. You don't want to have this problem where you've got tons and tons of no-shows all stacked up because you're booking them too far in advance, right? And the reason for this, again, going back to the motivation and time graph, is that as the appointment's booked here, right? Over time, the motivation drops. The activation point here, which is essentially the obstacles, which I was talking about earlier, right? The activation point for the show to occur is here. And therefore, when you're booking like 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, whatever, you start to see a drop off and you need to make sure either it's super easy for someone to attend the appointment, right? Incredibly easy for someone to attend the appointment, right? Like literally, so the activation point is like the obstacle, like everything's super low, right? Or you just need to make sure you book them in closer because you can't get your obstacle rate to 0. There's always some sort of obstacle for someone attending an appointment. So you want to make sure that you have your motivation as high as possible, and you do that. One of the hacks you can do that with is literally just moving the appointment closer to now. Obviously, there's other ways, for example, calendar availability, motivating them through case studies, that kind of stuff as well. But here, time to appointment, it's super huge, right? So again, so quickly summarize this. What happens if you speak to a lead and they're on a holiday for 2 weeks, right? So physically can't attend until they're back. Great question. Well done, Aaron. Great question. Well, we use like something called a callback request calendar. So what we'll do is we'll have a callback request calendar. It's literally a calendar that's open 24 hours a day, unlimited slots. And we'll just put that in. When an appointment comes into that, it will notify my team on Slack at the callback request time to then phone them up and then try to book them in for an appointment. If someone's on holiday, I would not be booking them like when they get back. They'll forget they're going on holiday. They're going to completely forget who you even are. They'll probably be drunk out of their mind, right? It's ridiculous. So I would much rather put a callback request appointment, which is literally just telling my team, hey, call this person back. It's not a fixed appointment in any way. It's just a callback request. That way then they phone them up, have a conversation with them, and then they can book them in for the next day or whenever it is. But I wouldn't just book the appointment. The call you make to your leads matters more than you think. I've heard countless recordings of setters phone up leads, asking some basic questions, and then just booking them in for an appointment, right? Sometimes I hear like a 3-minute long call recording, and with that 3-minute long call recording, 2 minutes of it is trying to find a time to book the appointment. That means 1 minute was spent on actually like discussing their pain, discussing their problems, trying to build that rapport, trying to make them feel more comfortable, trying to build that trust, right? It doesn't work. On that call, you need to make sure you're actually pain gathering, you're future gazing, you're not just going through the motions, right? On the second call, you must build the trust, bring the lead's pain to the service, and convince them that you hold the solution to that problem, right? There's no point in them just telling you their pain and they don't believe you're gonna help them solve it. They have to actually convince them that you're gonna be able to help them solve that pain or whatever they're going through, okay? You need to treat it essentially as part of the sales call, right? Make sure they're engaged enough to actually attend the appointment. One of the biggest things I see is if I see the show rate of my certain setters dropping, it's very clear to know why it's dropping, right? Every setter has access to the same leads. They're all calling the same kind of lead, right? If one, for example, appointment setter's show rate is 70%, and another one's 30%, I already know the problem. All I've got to do is listen to some of their calls. I can hear the difference instantly. It's like the person's getting 70%, really building pain, really building connection, really building rapport with them, explain how it all works, like really building a lot, they're very knowledgeable, building a lot of trust, really convincing the person that we have the solution to their problem. Then you hear another setter and they're just like reading some basic script. They're like not engaging with the lead. They're just going through the motions, right? And then they wonder why their show rate is half of the other guys. It's always the same thing. You essentially need to treat that setting call as a part of the sales process, right? You need to make sure they're engaged, building pain, that kind of stuff. If you're booking a physical appointment like at a dental office, does the lead actually know where you're located? Have you explained where you guys are? Have you explained who they're gonna be meeting? Have you explained, again, building that trust, that comfortability, right? All of this puts the lead in a much more comfortable frame of mind and makes them way more likely to actually show up to the appointment. Reciprocity and accountability. This is a fundamental law. I'm sure you've heard of this before, right? Essentially, if someone does something for me, I feel the need to do something back for them. It's the way we're structured. It's the way humans work from like a tribal standpoint, right? If I give you some grain one day for free, you feel the need to maybe give me some of your meat when you make a hunt, right? Like it's just like the way humans work. Reciprocity is like fundamental to civilization, to be honest with you. It's how we've evolved, right? So it's important to utilize this throughout all of your show rate tactics and whatever you want to call them, right? For example, let's say you're in a boxing gym and you send a picture to the lead of 2 different pairs of boxing gloves and you're like, hey, I'm just getting ready for our class tomorrow. I'll put a pair of gloves aside for you. Do you prefer white or black gloves, right? If someone replies to this like, hey, I like white gloves, hey, I want the black gloves, right? There's a much higher chance of them actually showing up to the session. Why? Because they feel like you've done something for them, right? Like you've gone out of your way to help them in some way. Like you didn't have to ask them what color that they wanted, but you've still done that, right? And so it feels like you've done something for them and they feel the need to at least turn up. They're like, oh, this guy like put gloves aside for me. It's such a simple thing, right? Put gloves aside for me. But I'm now like, this guy's like done something, like I feel like a dick. Like I've got to at least show up now. This guy's expecting me, or I've at least got to cancel. I've at least got to tell him I'm not going to attend, and then you can try and rebook them, right? That's the worst case you're going to get. Another example, this is like in the med spa, right? You could send a picture of a special machine and be like, hey, like I know we've got our trial session tomorrow. Did you want to see how this machine works? Did you want me to show you this piece of it? If you're interested in that, I can get it warmed up before you get here and we can just get started, right? If the guy's like, oh yeah, I'd love to see it, or oh yeah, that sounds great, or whatever, right? Then that way the person's going to be like, again, you've gone out of your way, you've done something for them. So they're going to feel like, damn, like I've got to really show up. And there's loads of different examples of this, right? It could be, for example, like going back to the gym niche, it could be, we'd like to give all of our clients a smoothie before they get here. Do you prefer apple or pineapple, right? Again, something so basic, right? But the person's like, damn, this person's like actually doing something for me. I should at least show up, and I should at least show up and not be a dick, right? There's loads of different examples. For example, like I've got one down here, like if you're online, right? Let's say you're doing Zoom calls and you haven't got something physical to give them. You could something like, hey, I'm just getting ready for our meeting tomorrow. If you want, I can get my team to do a full SEO review of your website. If you want, and I can build a report and we can go through it together. If they're like, oh yeah, sounds amazing, right? Or anything, just use your imagination. This is what I mean. Put yourself in your lead's shoes and think, what would make me want to attend that call? What would make me want to do something here, right? So for example, with us, we send a custom loom to each of our leads before, like when they book the appointment, right? So what we'll do is it's not actually a custom loom, it looks custom because we use Loom AI. Essentially we have an 8-minute video breaking down kind of the process, how it all works, what we're doing, like how the software works, all that, kind of showing them around, right? But we use the person's name in the beginning. So they're like, hey Jamie, hey Ryan, hey James, whatever it is, right? And the person thinks, oh, this guy's actually made me like an 8-minute loom before the appointment. Like, damn, like I feel like a bit of, like I've got to at least show up now. Like it's taken 8 minutes out of his day to explain to me before I even get on the call what this is all about to help me make a better decision. Like I should really show up, right? Obviously that really helps with the pitching as well because you don't have to waste so much time explaining software and that kind of stuff, which really helps the sales team. But them kind of things work really, really well and you should really try and incorporate as much as possible. And one other thing I want to touch on here is the social contract, right? Which is kind of linked to this, which is there's a social contract amongst every single person you talk to, you work with, whatever, right? If me and my best friend plan to meet somewhere for lunch, right? What is the chance that they're going to show up to that meeting? Very high, right? Absolute worst case, they're going to text me saying, hey Aaron, so sorry I can't make it to lunch, this happened, right? They're at least going to let me know. It'd be crazy for me and my best friend to book something in and then him just not turn up. That would be fucking bonkers. But why is that? Why would my friend not do that? He would happily no-show a random person he's never met before, or a random company for a gym session or a fucking chiropractic session or whatever. He will happily no-show that, but why would he not do that to me? Well, it's because we have a social contract. He knows there's repercussions. He knows there's another person on the other end of that, right? It's the same way with like Amazon, for example, right? With Amazon, people will happily send things back to Amazon, even if they've used them, right? Shopping fraud is a huge problem. People buy something, they use it once because they just need it for like a day, and then they send it back and go, oh, I didn't use it, I don't need it anymore, right? Obviously, it's not a good thing to do, it's very immoral, but people do it to companies like Amazon. Why? Because they don't see that there's a person on the other end of that. They don't care. They're like, oh, it's this big corporation. If people knew that 60% of Amazon sellers are actually small businesses just trying to make a living, they probably wouldn't do that because they appreciate that there's someone on the other end of that, and it's that social contract, right? It's like you're not gonna scam an old lady for $10,000, but you might feel comfortable scamming a huge corporation like Starbucks for $10,000 because the social contract is like, oh, I'm not really hurting anyone, I'm not really affecting them. So with all this show rate stuff, it's really important to build that social contract with that person, with that lead, right? How do we do this? We personify the company. So things like selfies, right? Hey, it's John here, I'm meeting you in an hour. Here's a picture of me at my gym. Here's a picture of me at the chiropractic clinic. Here's a picture of me, I don't know, doing a roof, right? Whatever it is, right? They can see that there's a real person on the other end of the screen. At the other end of the appointment, there's a real person actually waiting for them. And if someone feels like a real person is waiting for them at the other end, they feel like a dick for letting them down. Same with my best friend. He's probably not going to flake a meeting with me because he knows I'm a real person and he feels like a dick. He's like, oh, I feel bad on him. Obviously, the repercussions as well is like, am I going to continue being friends with him, which you don't really have in this situation with like a business, right? But we still have that human connection, which is really important. So the person, you want to make them feel like a dick if they don't show. I don't want to ramble too much about this, so I hope that will make sense. But the key thing here is make the company feel like a real person that's actually waiting for you on the other end, and not just some big corporation that doesn't care about you, right? If you can do that, again, your show rate is going to massively increase. Okay, final thing, phone call versus Zoom meetings. If you're running a cold funnel, meetings over the phone beat Zoom meetings every day of the week when it comes to sharp rate. Again, it depends on your niche, right? I'm in the agency niche. Everyone knows how to use Zoom, right? So Zoom phone call doesn't really matter. Let's say you're dealing with something like, I don't know, a HVAC installer. That's a completely different ballgame, right? And you need to make sure you're using phone calls, not Zoom calls. The reason for this is to minimize the friction to get on a call with you. Again, the obstacle, right? The obstacle it takes to be able to actually speak to you is way easier over the phone. They literally pick up their phone and they fucking answer it, right? When it comes to a Zoom call, they've got to find Zoom, they've got to download the app. Oh, it says there's a passcode, where's the passcode? You've got to find the email. It's a lot harder for some people if they're not used to using Zoom, right? If you want to have a Zoom call first, maybe because you need to screen share or something, I'd always recommend phoning them up, building some rapport, building some connections, some trust, and then be like, oh, by the way, I actually have some screen share stuff. Are you by your computer or you're in your office, right? Obviously, you want to clarify that before the call as well. When you're actually booking the appointment, you want to say to them, hey, you could be in your office, right? And maybe say it in the reminders as well. But then when you get on the phone, so you phone them up and you say, oh, you by your computer, I want to screen share some stuff with you. You then send them the Zoom link while you're on that call, right? If you don't do it while you're on the call, they might lose it. They might just no-show again, right? They're just fake. So I would literally be like, hey, I've just sent you the Zoom link. Have you got that? They go, yeah, sounds good. And they're about to hang up. And it's like, no, wait, hold on, wait. Let's make sure you get on it first. Let's make sure that it all works, blah, blah. They click the link. You make sure you can see them pop up on the screen. Is your audio working? No, you're muted. Can you hear me? No, I can't. Hold on, wait. So try clicking that button. Yeah, oh, there you go. You're good. Okay, but now I can hang up, right? Once they're actually there talking to you, then you can hang up the phone. Don't do it before. And the thing is, a lot of people will say, yeah, but if they're not by their computer, then I don't want to do the Zoom call with them, right? Because it's like, I need to screen share. Okay, that's a fair point, but if they weren't by their computer, they were never going to join the meeting in the first place. If you sent them a Zoom link and they're not by their computer when you phone them, they were never going to attend the Zoom meeting because they're not at their computer, so it would have been a no-show. So at least you've got them on the phone and you can try and rebook them in and build a bit of rapport, start the sales process and then book them in for the next day, right? By not phoning them, it's just stupid. Even if you need Zoom to show them something, still phone them and then move them to Zoom while you're actually on the call with them. We actually changed this whole thing for one of my clients. They ran a agency for HVAC installers. Previously, they had a 20% show rate, and I swear these numbers, I couldn't believe them myself. I thought it was crazy, right? They had a 20% show rate, right? All they did is change the Zoom call to a phone call, and they changed some of the reminders to say, I'm gonna phone your number at this time, or phone this number at this time, rather than, hey, here's a Zoom link, right? That's the only things they changed. They went from a 20% show rate to an 80% show rate, 80% show rate. They literally 4x their shows just because they were targeting HVAC installers who are always on the road, who are always busy, who don't know how to use Zoom, right? They're not technical people, and they just moved to a phone call where all they've got to do is pick up the phone, swipe, hello, and that's all they had to do, right? Rather than finding the Zoom link, finding the email, they're on the road, they're driving on the road. They might have even forgotten about the appointment because they're between their own appointments and they're on the road. Now you phone them up, they're like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry, I forgot, or whatever, or they just were never going to attend in the first place. So converting them to a phone call 4x their show rate, which I thought was absolutely insane, right? And it makes perfect sense. If you're a HVAC installer, if you're a roofer, like, these guys aren't technical. They don't know how to use Zoom. They haven't got it installed. They haven't got a laptop with them. They've just got their notepad, right? They've got their phone with them. That's all they've got. Or they try and join on their phone and they're like this. And it's just horrible. Just do a phone call first, get them in the office, then do a Zoom call. And like I said, bonus tip, stay on the phone with them while they get connected on Zoom. Only hang up once they've actually on the Zoom call. Once they're actually there talking to you. Otherwise, if there are technical difficulties, it screws things up. You've got to phone them back anyway. So stay on the phone with them until you actually get them on the Zoom call. So that was quite a lot to go through. I appreciate you staying with me for all that. Hopefully it all made sense. If you've got any questions, please comment down below. I respond to every single comment and I want to help you guys. So make sure you comment down below. If you like this video and you want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you on the next one.